And so don't think that your CPA is helping you save on taxes. They are not. They are here to keep you compliant with the IRS,
Right.
and that is a great, admirable thing. They are not here to help you save on taxes. They're going to tell you to go buy a truck or go buy some info.
Welcome to the Financial Innovations Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Villani. We're helping CFOs save money and time by investing in cutting-edge technology. Really excited today to have Pam Jordan on the call with us. Pam, it's great to have you on.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. It's funny because probably a year ago, I didn't have as much knowledge of, the fractional CFO and bookkeeping side of things, just because many of the clients I work with are more enterprise scale and have, their own in-house teams, but had a great chance through this podcast to meet a few others like yourself. Maybe if you want to just start and talk a little bit about, what you do and the types of companies that you help.
Absolutely. So happy to be here. So my company is Pivot Business Group. We help our clients do 4 things: know their numbers, increase their profit, reduce their taxes, and grow their wealth. We do that through providing bookkeeping services, fractional CFO services, tax strategy, and tax filing. So we can be the outsourced accounting department for smaller size businesses. So in our experience, most businesses south of 10 million can succeed perfectly well with a fractional CFO, and quite frankly, don't have the budget for a full-time CFO and don't have the demand for one. And so that's where we come in and really add a ton of value.
Yeah, no, that's great because, I get asked the question a lot of, hey, what do we do with the limited budget that we have? And how do we get the best, ROI for that, right? And it's funny because a lot of the smaller companies always tell me, well, if only we were a big company and we had all these unlimited budgets, all our problems would be solved. And I always laugh at that because I've seen many of the biggest companies out there, and their problems are not solved with the budgets that they have, right? But having a fractional CFO, having an outsourced bookkeeper might be a great way for you to preserve some of the budget that you do have to go and put it into areas of strategic investment for your company so that that it can grow.
Definitely, yeah. And at the larger size, you do need a full team. But more money, more problems. Like they have the same problems you do. They just have more zeros behind their problem. Let's be really clear. I've interacted with some larger clients, 20 some, 30 some million. They have the same problems as $1 million company. They just have more zeros behind their problems.
Right.
So throwing money at it does not solve all the world's problems.
Right, exactly. And everyone's always looking to cut budgets and do more with less, and and all that. And I've seen some of the biggest companies on the planet, still using mainframe computing just because they don't want to spend the money to go and transition over to a more modern system. So just because you have the money doesn't always mean that that you're going to use it the way that you probably should. I know you said that you work mostly with with companies under 10 million. What would you say is like kind of a good starting point where you say, well, I can't do this myself. I need to, bring in a partner, in order to, manage the books, provide the CFO expertise.
Great question. So let me start with the bookkeeping side of things. So typically what I see is once you start getting about 250,000 in top line annual revenue, it's time to have a bookkeeper. And I'm not talking about your aunt. I'm not talking about your neighbor. I'm not talking about your 13-year-old daughter. I'm talking about a real bookkeeper, because at that point, your time as the owner visionary is too valuable to be coding. Because if you're a hair salon owner and you're behind a chair doing extensions, you're making $800 an hour. You don't need to be doing a $20 an hour task. So it really comes down to, at what point does your value outweigh the cost of the task that's in front of you? And too often I see entrepreneurs doing tasks that are below their pay grade because they just don't want to go outsource it. They don't want to let go of it. But as soon as your hourly rate is above the value of bookkeeping, it is time to outsource it. And there's lots of really good outsourced overseas. We do bookkeeping There's lots of good bookkeeping firms because at that point, you just need someone to track the cash flow, the money in, money out, making it sure it goes to the right spot and making sure it's reconciled. You don't really have that many financial cash flow challenges yet. And so that's where you hit about 500,000 to 750,000 in top line revenue, where I recommend you start looking into a CFO. Because at that point, you're not playing business anymore. You're actually running a profitable business. And at that point, your gut is either going to help you or get you in trouble. And having someone who helps hold you accountable and like a fractional CFO to create a budget and be like, Daniel, that is a fun, really exciting squirrel idea, but I don't think that gets us closer to our goals. So we might not want to do that right now. So someone to kind of help you stay within the guardrails of what you say you want. At $1 million, you definitely, at $1 million top line revenue, you definitely need a fractional CFO. It is too late at that point because cash flow is huge. Most businesses have seasonality. And if you're not prepared for it, 1 month you can have more money in the bank than you can ever believe. And 2 months later, you can't make payroll. I've seen it. So at $1 million top line revenue, it is really time to stop playing business and work on your business, not just in it. Have a financial strategist like a CFO who's helping you create a budget, understand what your true costs are, help you understand your cash flow, because it's your money at the end of the day and it's your house. If the house of cards comes falling down, it's it's your house that they're going to come after. And I've been through bankruptcy with clients in the past. It's not a fun ride. So it's important to know once you're not playing business at $1 million of revenue. You have a actual business. There's statistics I can make up all day long, but very few, small percentage of businesses that are started actually get to seven figures. And at that point, it's time to get your crap together and actually act like you know what you're doing. And if you don't know, which is totally fine, outsource it, delegate it, have someone on your team come in to help you do that. Because a dashboard with KPIs is so powerful for entrepreneurs to be able to say, is now the time to hire for that? Is my ad spend working? No. Are my sales conversions working? No. What do I do about it? This, and be able to have options and have clarity on where your financials are.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. They definitely resonate with me because I feel like in today's day and age, when you say entrepreneur, you think of that person in their garage or basement, starting up, learning how to, not knowing how to do anything, buying books, watching videos, whatever on how to do it, and going and saying, hey, I did this myself. Right. And that sounds great. And it's very admirable when you go and you take on a challenge and, you go and accomplish something yourself. But, the question is it the best use of my time to your point of, do I want to go and struggle and learn, all of the ins and outs of, accounting for my business when, I can go and give that to somebody who's been doing it for 20, 30 years that isn't going to make the same mistakes that I am. Because let's face it, me going and saying, hey, let me classify this expense as something is very different from somebody with 20 or 30 years saying, hey, we're going to classify an expense, right? It's not all, there isn't just the ultimate dictionary for everything of, here's your mapping of what you're spending on to, to what you do over there. So, to your point, the hairdresser making $800 an hour, going and saying, all right, I'm going to learn bookkeeping and, I'm going to save $20 an hour. Well, how many appointments, now is this going to take up where, all you have to do is one more appointment a day and, you've more than paid for, all the kinds of financial help that you possibly need at that particular size. And a lot of people just think, hey, I'm going to be that person that said, oh yeah, I wanted to learn how to code today. So I went and I learned how to code. I want to learn how to do bookkeeping today. So I went and did bookkeeping, and there's a lot of, opportunity cost, I guess, to doing something like that.
100%. I agree. And another taking that to the next level then, Daniel, is the team that got you here isn't the team that's going to get you here. So your bookkeeper that you have when you first start out is probably adequate for filing taxes and keeping you compliant. But once you have a CFO in play, you need to up-level your bookkeeper. And that's what we see a lot of times because the nice old lady, Linda, that's been doing your books for 5 years, is she a bookkeeper? Yes. Is she doing an adequate job? Yes. But can I use that data to help you make high level financial decisions? Absolutely not. So it's important that as you grow, your financial team grows with you.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point because I mean even when I started my business, my accountant was my mother. She's a CPA, and she does not know the particular industry of what I do. Probably if you held a gun to her head and said what does your son do for a living, I don't know if she would necessarily be able to answer that question. But it's not just about saying, oh hey, here's somebody who's been doing bookkeeping, or CFO services, helping me with strategic decisions. It's you want to make sure that that person's aligned to what it is that you do, has the experience, has, lived that before, so that you can get to that next level from somebody who's actually helped get other people there versus somebody saying, hey, I'm reading the same books and blogs that you're reading. And I think this is the path forward.
Yes, not helpful.
So, in terms of, so let's say someone says, all right, I need a bookkeeper, I need a fractional CFO. Are there things that, they should prepare, come to the table with that, maybe they may not think about before, making the call that, just help, speed the process along?
Sure. And there's definitely tactical things that I'll get to in a second, but I think the most important thing is to understand what their goals are. Because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, if you don't know what success looks like, if you can't define what freedom is for you, inviting a CFO into your business will just make it a hot mess. So you need to understand what your true north is. So if someone is looking to up level their financial team and bring in a fractional CFO, I suggest they take a minute, pour a glass of something, get a piece of paper. If they have a business partner, have an honest conversation about what success looks like. What are we building this company for? At the end of the day, when I look back at my life and I see what I've done, what's going to make me feel proud about what I've created? Because if you, as an entrepreneur, can articulate what your goals are, you will have much more success with a fractional CFO than without. So that's the starting point, in my opinion. And anyone that comes in as a fractional CFO and doesn't start by asking for your goals, or any financial strategist, business coach, and their first question isn't, what are your goals? What are your dreams? I would suggest you fire them and go find someone else. Because what success looks like for you, Daniel, isn't what success looks like for me or the next guy or girl. And so it's important to understand that the business partner that you have that is forward looking in your business understands where you're taking your business. Otherwise, you're never going to get there. So then there's also, you need to make sure that your financials are in order. Most CFOs will do cleanup services, my firm as well. So if your financials aren't where they need to be, we can tidy it up, get it cleaned up so we can help you go forward. But having an accounting system, QuickBooks Online is the prevailing software. If you're, not enterprise value size, make sure your books are up to date or as close to as possible, so the CFO has something to look at to get a sense of, okay, you say you want to get to $1 million EBITDA and exit in 3 years, but right now you're at $200,000 net profit. Okay, we've got some work to do.
Right, right. Yeah, no, those are great points. And, I mean, this is exactly why we started the show because, we wanted to bring together all the different ideas and even just having the other fractional CFOs we've had, on the show in the past. It's funny to hear that, there's a lot of, synergies between, what everyone's saying. For those of you watching, in there, just make sure that you, comment, subscribe to our channel. And get all the latest updates and, be the first to see any of the new videos that we have. But, there's a lot, what you said that resonates. I think a lot of people, you ask like, hey, what's your vision? What's your goal? And it's always, oh, it's in my head, right? I know exactly what I want to do and where I'm going. And, while that might help you and be okay for you as you start expanding your team and looking to bring other people on, it's funny because I had a client several years back that, we implement financial systems and, they'll tell us, all right, here's my list of requirements. Now just go and build it. I say, all right, well, like we've got to like design this out, make sure that it looks and feels, how you want it to be. And they're like, no, just go and build. Like in my head, I know what this should look like and everything, and just go build it. And then it's okay. Well, how do we know what you want us to build over here. And there's a lot of disconnects that happen when things are just, in somebody's head and not, not out there on paper. So, I really like what you said there about, make sure that, whether it's you running the business yourself, whether it's, you're doing it with a partner or partners, make sure that, that it's out there, it's written down, and that, everybody's aligned on, yes, this is where we're going, because success for me and success for you might, be two totally different things.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I guess just in terms of some of like the financial statements, cash flows, things that you do for clients, maybe if you want to just start talking through a little bit about, why is it so valuable for, companies to understand, more than just, hey, I had $1 million in the bank last month, I have 1.2 in the million, in the bank this month, and so I must be doing okay. Versus having those statements. And I hear things like that a lot of, oh yeah, our revenue went up because we have more cash in the bank. And it can be sometimes challenging to articulate the need for, more than just, look at your bank account and tell me how you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell our clients, just because there's money in the bank doesn't mean it's your money. Because payroll is coming, rent is coming, your mortgage payment, your loan payments. You got to pay out of the Amex on the 10th of the month. So just because there's money in the bank doesn't mean it's your money. So having a CFO and financial clarity lets you know how much of that money is actually yours. And the other thing that CFOs can do is really help you dig up key metrics that matter to you and your business. And so, for example, we've got a client that's in the online retail space doing multiple millions, tons of employees, headcounts above 45. Beautiful company doing great things. 2 years ago was killing it, and then has been tanking since. And they came to us and she's like, what happened? And so we just had to peel back the layers, and really it comes down to her pricing. But that in her mind, her spreadsheets shows that she's got the markup necessary to sell her, it's craft goods. She buys the craft thing, does a 3 times markup, and everything's fine. Well, actually, you're not covering your overhead with that. You're not accounting for your warehouse staff. You don't understand the direct cost involved. And so we were able to come in and really show her in black and white that in a perfect world, the spreadsheet does math, but your perfect world spreadsheet isn't reality. Right. And so the CFO is able to help identify the disconnect between your beautiful spreadsheets and what you think is happening and what's actually happening in your bank account and why. Something that I hear all the time from clients is, but where's my money? Right? Like, we're selling more than we've ever sold, but where's my money? And that's what a CFO can help you understand is, where did your money go? And was it actually even your money? Because a lot of times, if you're not charging enough and your costs are too high, it was never your money to begin with. We had one client, and they're a manufacturer, and we went in and did our whole process and looked under the hood. And I said, do not ship another product with at least without a 20% price increase, because every time you ship a product, you are losing money. 25% would be great, but do not ship another product without a price increase, just because they weren't accounting for all the pieces that go in. And very often entrepreneurs are really good at what they do. They're really good at their idea. They're really good at selling it, but they don't understand all the costs that go into the fulfillment of that product or service. And so once the CFO is able to identify how the piece of the pie is being split and divided between the direct costs, the indirect costs, they're able to see in black and white, oh, dang, like, I am not making the money I thought I'm making. That's where my money is, right? Like, if it costs you $5 to buy something or produce something, and you're selling it for $7, but your overhead's $5, you're operating at a loss. It's just basic math. And a lot of times entrepreneurs don't understand because they didn't go to business school, which is totally fine. Hire someone who did.
Right. And it's funny that you say that, because, I feel like a lot of companies get tripped up over, the overhead, the indirect costs assigned. I did a project for a company in the past. They made tanks for the government, and they thought they were making all this money. And we built them an allocation model, and it turns out that when you allocate all the expenses of overhead and all that, it turned out they were losing money on every tank that they sold. It's one of those things where if you don't have a good handle on just like business acumen in general, and how to cost things out, you might think that, hey, I have a 3 or 4x markup, I've got great margins over here, but that 3 or 4x markup might need to be 10x markup in order to really even just make your money back. And a lot of people fall like just don't and aren't able to see that because of whether it's the systems they have in place, the people they have in place, running it, or even the processes that they have in place.
Yeah, and very often the business owner is in the weeds of the business, and they have their own spreadsheets and they have their own back of the napkin math that they're running. But once someone from the outside comes in and asks all the right questions and does the true math and maps it to what's actually happening in the bank account, there's a huge light bulb moment of, oh crap, I had no idea. I didn't know that. I didn't think about that. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I should count that? Oh, that cost isn't covered? These are things that we hear with our clients as we go through these exercises. And that's the light bulbs of, that's where your money is, dude. Like, that's where it went. Let's fix it.
Right. And being able to get down to that level of detail of being able to see, you're not making money even with a 3x markup or a 2x markup or whatever it is. And here's why. Here's where you're spending the money. It opens the door to a lot of strategic decisions that can happen. Is it a matter of negotiating with your supplier on that particular item that costs you the most amount of money? If paper is 1% of your cogs, and you find out that lumber is 30% of it, don't waste the time trying to negotiate the paper price as much as you'd spend the time negotiating the lumber price, right? And it just opens up a lot of avenues in terms of strategically, what do I do about where I am? But you can't get there unless you really have a detailed statement of, here's everything that's going into, the goods or services that you're providing. Here's where the costs are. Here's where the revenue is. Here are the allocations of, overhead, anything else in there. And now you have an action plan of, okay, here's what I do about, do I want to double my revenue? Well, you can double your revenue by doing X or by doing Y, or a combination of both. But without that kind of, information, all you can do is just say, hey, I got to sell more, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And in the world of business finance, I'm going to tell you the secret. It's sell more and spend less. However, the how to actually do that is a lot harder than it sounds. So if you're selling at a loss, selling more just makes you broke faster. It just does. It just crashes the plane of your business faster. So understanding what your costs are, selling more at a profit, and then spending less of your hard-earned money is how you grow your profit. Because you and I both know this. If somebody wants to exit, your top line doesn't matter. It's your net, it's your bottom line, it's your profit, it's your EBITDA that someone's going to come to the table and pay you for. I have clients that are multiple seven figures and are worth nothing because they're broke. And then I have clients that are low seven figures and are worth tens of millions of dollars because their EBITDA is higher.
Right. But you don't know which you are unless you have, the right systems and processes and people in place to, to be tracking all this. It just reminds me, quote I always hear is, you get what you measure, right? And, if you're not measuring anything and you say, all right, we're a great company, we have 2 million in revenue. Well, you may not be profitable at 2 million in revenue, or you might be killing it at 2 million in revenue. You just don't know unless you have that data and that detail, at your disposal.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So, maybe, we could talk a little bit about, like, what are some of the mistakes that you see business owners, making? I know we talked about a bunch of things to, improve or, to look at, but, where do you see, kind of the biggest mistakes happening?
Yeah, one mistake that I see is when a business owner does not have clarity on what their goals are and does not share that goal with their tax professional, they're playing the wrong tax game. Because what people don't understand is your tax professional keeps you compliant with the IRS, but they're not necessarily helping you scale and grow your business. They're not helping you get to the multiple you want or the big check at the end of the day. Most tax professionals just play the game of, oh, you probably don't want to pay taxes, so I'm just going to write this off. I'm going to write this off. Oh, go buy that truck. Oh, just bonus yourself out. But then 6 months later, when you want to go to the bank to go get a loan for your second location and you need $300,000 for a build out and your tax return says you are broke, the bank's not going to give you that money. So it's imperative to communicate what your goal is so that you're playing the right tax game. Because if your goal is to exit or get outside money within the next 3 to 5 years, that is a very different tax game than, oh yeah, I'm going to ride this thing for 15 years. And far too often I see entrepreneurs letting their tax professional play the wrong game and it costs them. An example is I had a hair salon that wanted a second location, and she came to us, and we did our analysis, which is the first step in our process, and we discovered that okay, she was making money, but the tax return was totally tanking all of her financials and making her look a certain way. And she's like, "Oh, I've got a meeting with the banker next week to go get this loan," and I'm like, "Oh, Queen, do not show these to anyone." Like, hold up, dead stop. They're going to tell you no. Let me explain to you why. And so, luckily, the tax returns were just in draft. This was in October. And so, we were able to rework them and show that she was profitable, but then play tax saving games on her personal return. So, she still didn't have to pay taxes, but her business tax return showed strength, and she now got approved for that loan.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's funny because, there's the answer to everything whenever you talk to an accountant, a consultant, whatever, it's always, it depends, right? I mean, it's, nobody's ever going to say, the answer is yes or no to even what you say is, I'm going to ask you a basic yes or no question. But and I always hate when I get the answer of it depends and then a period at the end versus the it depends. And I'm going to tell you what it depends on. Right. Because just saying, hey, it depends. Well, that doesn't get me anywhere, closer to clarity on the questions I should be asking or the things I should be doing versus the it depends on. So, okay, well, now said something or a bunch of things that, I have some more questions about or that, will help get to the answer. Right. So it all, just kind of goes back to your goal of, what are you looking to do in business? Are you looking to maximize the profit? Are you looking to open that second location? Are you just looking for freedom in general? And, the rest doesn't matter. The answers to pretty much everything is going to totally change here's the strategy that you should do. And just because, one of your colleagues or peers or whatever is doing, strategy A doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right strategy for you because your goals and their goals may be two totally different things.
Agree 100%.
So what are other things that you see that, that might, need to either be optimized or that, cause issues for business owners?
Sure. A big mistake that I see is business owners not having a forward looking view of their financials because your accountant, your CPA, and your bookkeeper are sitting in the back seat.
Right.
They're telling you where you've been. You're driving your car, and your co pilot, if you don't have a CFO, is missing. No one is showing you what's coming next. Imagine, you were going to drive your family from Florida to Yellowstone. Okay, well, your co pilot is someone with a map that's telling you how to get from point A to point B, what's in front of you. Your kids are in the back seat saying, Daddy, you just missed the McDonald's. Daddy, I have to pee. You just passed the rest stop, right? Like, that's not helpful at that moment. You passed the rest stop. Like, that's not what you need. It's important to know where you've been, but I would argue it's more important to know where you're going. Otherwise, you will not get where you want with your business. So too often business owners are looking at data that's too old. Some businesses, if it's not within 7 days, you're going to miss a mark. I had one client, and he was getting his reports 3 months after time from his bookkeeper, his accountant. Well, by then he'd already overspent on marketing, overspent on payroll, and was having to go get a line of credit because he needed to cover his costs. That's too late. So you need to have a forward looking view. So this is where a cash forecast comes in, a budget comes in, cash on hand report, something that shows you what's coming up, because it's a much more proactive way to live your life, and you sleep better at night. And there's AI software out there that does this for you. If it's something that a business owner doesn't want to have a CFO, there is software out there that you can plug into your QuickBooks, and it will create a forecast for you. Because if you're not looking forward, you're just going to keep digging in the hole that you're in. And in 3 weeks, when you can't make payroll, you're not going to see it coming.
Yeah, I think one big, kind of differentiate point to differentiate, in there is that I think a lot of people get tripped up over the, hey, I went and I hired an accountant versus, I have someone that's a CFO, right? And it's, you can go on, pick a freelance website, find someone in another country, say, I got this bookkeeper that's, $5 an hour that's going to go and do my books for me. Right. And, that might help you in, with some things. Right. But, it just goes to show you the importance of having a partner at the strategic level of here's how to just take the accounting is here's what happened. Right. And then the where are we going is not, necessarily just an accounting function. It's a function of the accounting plus other things. And, some of the other things being understanding, the business, the strategic direction, and the goals of the business owner over there. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of, hey, I'm going to try to like do this on the cheap and go and, get somebody. And yeah, QuickBooks has the AI forecast functions. I'm just going to click a couple buttons, generate my forecast. And now I know, here's what we're going to do for the next, 6 to 8 months. And, while I think AI is great, and, I know we've had some discussions in the past on, software, AI, that type of stuff, but, it doesn't take the humans out of it, at least not right now, where, having somebody that has been where you're looking to go, or is where you're looking to go, that's able to say, hey, you may want to think about this, you may want to think about that. It's not just a function of seeing a trend of your revenue. They're actually drivers to it that we can tweak right now to go and get you, to that level in year 3 versus in, year 10 of your, AI generated forecast that you have over there. And it's just, I think it's just, and again, this is why, like, we like to have, great people on the show, because it's, it's the people that are going to get you there. You can buy fancy technology. I know the people on QuickBooks are all like, oh, look at this cool feature of, this $10 million ERP software and all of that out there. But the $10 million ERP software is not going to get you strategically to where you want to go, by itself. It's, it's a combination of, the people you have in place, the processes you have in place, as well as the technology that you're using. So maybe, if you want to talk a little bit about, how you help at that strategic level of, combining all the different elements of, here's what we need to look at. Here's, the forward looking, what we're looking for, and, here's how we're going to get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a journey that we take our clients through. So first, obviously, is once we know what their goals are, once we know that we have financials that we can trust, then we create a roadmap of here's what needs to be fixed first, right? Like looking at your numbers, your profit margin is not where it needs to be industry wide. So we're going to have to start looking at your pricing. So we'll look at the pricing. Then we'll look at their direct costs. Then we'll look at fulfillment. Then we'll look at overhead. We'll do an expense audit. There's lots of different tools that we have in our toolbox that we can pull out. And as far as forecasting, we have software that we use, but all of it then has to be manipulated because every business is different and the tools don't understand like simple things like accrual accounting. We have a lot of clients that will sell a big ticket item, but then they have to fulfill on it for, 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months. Well, I've yet to find a forecasting tool that can play well with that. They do a launch and they make $100,000. The AI is like, great, every month we're going to have $100,000. Well, actually, no, we now have to, fulfill on that for the next foreseeable, 6-9 months of after the launch. So we then have a CFO report that we should go over with our clients that talks directly to QuickBooks, that shows what their key metrics are. How are they doing? How are they doing compared to last year? On a rolling 12, what is their current valuation? Because most of our clients do want to scale and exit. And so it's important to know how your EBITDA is running. Are you running at a number that's worth walking away? And if not, all right, well, let's keep rolling up our sleeves. And so we just work through our process based on what the specific client's struggling with. And what's funny is we fix something, and then 6 months later, we have scaled the company and we have more profit and we have better cash flow. But then this problem kind of rears its ugly head, but at a different level. So it's like, okay, it's time to look at our team compensation again. I know we just did this 6 months ago, but guess what? It's a problem again, because now our overhead, is a challenge, or now our fulfillment, blah, blah, blah. So it's an ongoing process. Like, we never fix your profit because it can always improve. We never help fix your sales, your direct costs, all of the metrics that we track, cash conversion, blah, blah, blah. But it's an ongoing conversation of, let's keep working at this. Let's get us, fix it now. And in 9 months, if it pops back up as a pain point, fantastic. Let's drill back in and see what's changed and make the necessary tweaks.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because I think a lot of people think like, hey, if I'm sick, I book a doctor's appointment, I go to the doctor, they give me some medicine, I take the medicine, and I'm done. I don't have to go back to the doctor anymore, right? And when it comes to your financials, to your point, it's that, it's a process. It's a never ending process of, just because you fixed something at, the micro level, now you have other types of problems that happen as you're growing, other things to look at. Yes, you fixed this, but, unless you want to just stop and stay, flat at a certain point, you're always looking to grow. So there's always something to improve on, to tweak, to optimize, out there. And, I know that, kind of in the beginning of the show, you talked about, companies that, are under $1 million, when to start with the bookkeeper, the CFO. What do you recommend, if someone's a, solopreneur, maybe they're under that $1 million threshold, what are things that they should be doing, or thinking about at this, stage of the game to, just help them get to that next level?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing is just to make sure that your financial house is in order. So have a good bookkeeper. Have someone that gets you on QuickBooks Online, syncs with your banks and credit cards, and make sure that you're getting your financial reports on a monthly basis. And then as you're seeing tens of thousands of dollars as a net profit, it's time to start talking tax strategy. Because most of the time, you probably don't have the right legal and tax entity structure for your business. And so it's time to change. So if you're just a sole proprietor and you're pulling in $50,000 a year, cool. That's fine. But once you're hitting 60, 70, we need to be an LLC. And it might even be time to be an S Corp or an LLC with an S election, depending on the asset protection that you need, or a partnership or something like that. Because once you're doing a couple $100,000, you're overpaying on taxes if you don't have the correct entity structure. Just changing an S election on an LLC that's doing $400,000 can save them 20 grand in taxes. And so don't think that your CPA is helping you save on taxes. They are not. They are here to keep you compliant with the IRS, and that is a great, admirable thing. They are not here to help you save on taxes. They're going to tell you to go buy a truck or go buy some inventory. But let me translate that. What that means is they say spend $1 to save 30 cents in taxes. That is not tax strategy. Tax strategy is spend $1 to save $1 in taxes, or $1 plus. We have some tax strategies that you spend $1, you get $1.30 in tax savings. You spend $1, you get $4 in tax savings. That's tax strategy, and it's very different. So if you're sub $1 million and you don't feel like you're ready for a CFO, you do need a good bookkeeper, and it's time for a tax strategist, because I guarantee you're overpaying on taxes. Since September of 23 to September of 24, we found $2 million in tax savings for our clients. And this is not deductions. This is $2 million less that they would have had to pay the IRS.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it reminds me of, like I mentioned before, my mom was my accountant when I started out, and she would tell me, stories of, clients of hers that, they would, oh, I'll just get my taxes done at H&R Block, right? And, and I gave them, the information. I had my taxes. They went to her and, they paid more than what they would have paid going to H&R Block. But, she had the conversation with them in terms of, do you have IRAs, 401ks, that kind of stuff. And, one of her clients was like, well, no one's ever asked me that before. And it turned out that he wasn't taking a deduction that, he should have been taking for years, and, spending $500 to have her do the books versus, $80 or whatever it was at H&R Block saved, $10,000 in tax savings there. So, it just goes to show you that, you have to have the right people. It's not just a matter of, everybody, kind of thinks like, oh, I want to minimize my expenses. So every single thing that there's a dollar amount to, I'm just going to go and see where's the cheapest place that I can get this done. Right. But, there's the element of getting what you pay for, and, making sure that the right people asking the right questions are on there. Because, when I was starting, my business, I said, oh, I know I need an LLC. I don't know what I need to elect it as. So I'll just, pick something at random. Right. And, maybe that's okay starting out, and you start to learn later on when you get your tax bills that, maybe you could be paying less if you put some more thought into, how you have certain things elected, or, how classify expenses to the point from before, whatever it is. And maybe, there are certain tax credits out there where you say, okay, if I do R&D and it's, done in the US versus done abroad, maybe you pay a little bit more here, but you get a tax credit that makes it cheaper than doing it abroad. So, the tax book is not, like a 10-page manual where you could just, read through it. Right. And say, okay, now I'm a tax expert and I know everything that I need to do. It's a matter of making sure that you get the right expert on there that knows that book, that, also knows what it means and isn't just, reading the individual lines and interpreting it themselves, and being able to say, all right, here's, let's be more strategic about how, we set up our entity, how we set up certain processes, metrics that we look at, which I guess is the next, question. I know the answer right away is going to be it depends when I ask, what metrics somebody should be looking at, but are there specific recommendations you have outside of like, pulling your P&L, your balance sheet, your cash flow that, you say, regardless of industry, here are some things that, you really need to understand about your numbers.
Yeah, so it's super helpful to have some basic metrics in place, and then based on what your goals are, add some layers to it. Easy answers would be cash on hand. Current monthly burn would be huge. What your current AR is, so accounts receivable, if anyone's owing you money, a current accounts payable would be also huge. And then net profit margin. And there's a lot, I mean, there's millions of things that you can track. We've got some clients that we track percentage of occupancy of their gym, of whether they're going to be profitable this month, right? Like if we know that if they have a certain amount of people in their gym, we're going to hit our metrics. But basic financials of understanding what money you have, what money is about to come in, what money needs to go out, what your current monthly burn rate is, lets you have a baseline of, am I winning at this game of money or am I losing? Because if your net profit is negative, you are losing at this game because it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Right. And I know other, suggestions that have been, made in the past and stuff around like, also timing your outflows of cash and your inflows of cash. So, so that, your receivables are coming in before, you have to pay out payables. Are there, maybe like lesser known tips, like things like that, people may not, necessarily think of that, that are good to keep in mind?
One that comes to mind is the cash conversion cycle. Because a lot of people don't understand that if I sell something today, I don't have my money today. And so to understand the delay of the cat between when someone says, yes, I want to become your client, and when you actually have the money in the bank, that lag can kill a business. So depending on your merchant processor, how you collect funds, if you invoice, you have to deal with a PO system, if you're government contracts, like understanding what that time period is can sink a ship. So that is a huge metric for a lot of cash tight businesses, especially if you have a lot of inventory and a lot of cash outlay, to know what your cash conversion, because you can have $100,000 day and not see that money for weeks to months. If you're in the construction industry, I mean, 120-day terms, selling a huge apartment complex that you're going to build and supposedly make all this money, but you don't actually get that cash for 90 days. Okay, you've got to foot the bill of everything up to that point. So cash conversion is huge in a lot of industries, and it's something that's often overlooked.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even just simple terms, even, I get contracts all the time and it's, oh yeah, we'll pay you in 60 days, we'll pay you in 90 days. And it's, well, if you don't understand what that means, then you could you could sell a $10 million contract and go bankrupt before you see the money, come in, depending on how you have the business managed over there. And it's funny because there are a lot of things that, it's not really hard to negotiate, payment terms. And a lot of people just kind of sign the contract and say, all right, so they'll, I'll get the money. It's just going to come in 60 days or whatever. But this is where, like people like yourself come in, where it's just looking at some of these things saying, hey, all we have to do is make a phone call, change it from 60 days to 30 days. And now we have the cash coming in before we have to pay it out.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to go broke waiting on, that big check to come in. And a lot of times I hear that clients will be like, oh, well, I've got this big wire's coming in, or this big deposit's coming in. Okay, well, when? Oh, it's supposed to be next week. It's supposed to be next week. Okay, well, payroll is Thursday. We're going to have to go to the line of credit, or you're going to have to cash out your 401k because you didn't negotiate a good contract.
Right. Meanwhile, you got a huge other order coming in and you don't have the money to go and have it manufactured. So now you can't fulfill a contract because you didn't time your cash right.
Yeah. And that's that forward-looking view that is so imperative as you're scaling your business, because your accountant's not, a typical accountant, CPA who's doing your taxes, your typical bookkeeper is not going to be able to tell you, oh, by the way, you're about out of money.
Yeah, no, this is all very helpful. I understand that you also have a book that you created. Maybe if you want to just talk a little bit about, if our audience has questions, they want to get a copy of the book. What's the best place to learn more, learn more about you, your company, and get all that great information?
Yeah, super simple. Just go to pamjordan.com, and my book is on there. My courses are on there. You can direct or contact my team directly on there, schedule services if you want to learn more about my business. The link is there to understand how we help our clients and our journey. Everything is at pamjordan.com.
That's great. And, it's just really important. What I've, found, kind of all along here is, you might go and say, hey, I'm going to outsource a certain function of my business, whether it's bookkeeping, CFO, it doesn't matter what it is. The people who are more successful are the people who do at least some base level of learning prior to, making that phone call to, to whoever it is, right? Versus just saying, hey, I'm going to, call the first person I come in contact with and, and hope that they're giving me the right information. So, we'll put the link in the description of the video over here so that, everyone can check it out, but just highly recommend whether, you're someone that wants to be involved in the numbers of the business, or, you just want to, get that high level information prior to, reaching out, prior to, looking to improve your business, do as much of your homework as you can, because it's going to help you in the long run.
Absolutely.
Well, Pam, I know we're running out of time over here. Was great speaking with you today. In terms of getting in touch with you, best place going to your website over there. Or is there any other social media or anything that you'd like people to connect with you on.
Yeah, so my social media is Pam Jordan CFO, and my website is pamjordan.com.
All right, great. Pam, once again, thank you so much for being on the show. It was great. I know I took away a lot of information from this as well, and I know that our audience has as well.
Thank you so much for having me.